Hey, what's up? Define Triple Nine here. We had a new person in our group come in and ask some questions and talk about some stuff. And I figured it'd just be easier to shoot a video than to try to write a book or, I'm growing farther away from more textual stuff and just it's easier to talk, man. Anyway, let's go to that post. It's a guy named Kev Crespi. He's new to the group. He's been collecting comics for many years and picking out different countries, doing different stuff. It looks like he started with the Spanish books, but he had a few questions, and yeah, let's we can talk about them. But to start out with, though, I'd just like to welcome you to the group, Kev. We always wonder how many people are out there just almost stalking the foreign group, and at the same time buying a bunch of foreigns, even though they're not active in the community. At one point in time, we thought there was maybe about 50 hardcore foreign collectors. Of course, this is years ago, not now. Now I think there's a lot more, but back in the early days, we thought there was maybe about 50 hardcore ones, and about I'd say maybe 25 of those were Americans. What I mean by foreign collectors too, let me rephrase that. It's not just a collector outside of America's borders. I mean they collect books that are foreign to them, meaning outside of their borders, not in their language or in their culture. So there's a lot of guys outside of the United States that have been doing this, as well as a lot of Americans that are collecting in this style as well. The real question is, when does your comic book collection hit a point where the foreigners either start growing like this and start leaving the Americans behind, or you just had a really large American collection, but your focus is now shifted to books that are foreign to you, right? And that's an interesting question because I think it happens to a lot of people and it happens at different times. And it can even happen and you don't realize it. We call this type of collecting a sickness. What I do is a sickness. I am very, very sick. I think last year I bought a total of 2, maybe 3 American books. That was it. My money isn't going into the American back issue market. It's going somewhere else. It's going all over the world, actually. But anyway, Kev, let's get to some of your questions here. I am attaching a pic of my Spider-Man 129 CGC 9.6. I read this book had stronger than normal value. Can someone explain if this is true and why? Can anyone pinpoint a value range for this book? Well, values on foreign books can be difficult. They can be all over the place. And, there is no price guide for this stuff. And 2, you have to remember that because the broader back issue, international back issue market is so small and large at the same time, because you've actually got multiple things. You've got what is the book worth in the country of its indigenous production in that back issue market. Then you have what is this book worth on the broader international back issue market? That means collectors outside of the country of origin. And 3, what is the book worth on American eBay, which is its own animal, because then there is an American premium that usually is paid. So it's almost like 3 different back issue markets, right? You got the difference between what someone in the country is going to pay for it. You got the difference between what someone outside of the country is going to pay for that in their country of origin. And you've got the difference of what someone is going to pay for that on American eBay that's already made it into America or into pass through American customs, which is its own nightmare. And there's a reason why there's an American premium that's charged. So that is a complicated question. But what I will tell you is this. The 129 is the biggest set that's built. This is mine. I don't often show it. It is nice. It is. if it's not high grade, it's really freaking close. And what I can tell you about the Macs are they're printed on extremely thin paper. They're smaller format, a little bit smaller. See, it's a little thinner, a little smaller. And for the most part, you would think that most Macs wouldn't show up in very decent conditions, which is accurate for most Macs. But for a time there, higher grade Macs 129s were coming. I don't know. Some people believe there was either a warehouse find or some collector bought 20 of them and just sat on them for years. We don't know why so many really high grade Mac 129s just fell out of the woodwork. We do know that someone who ended up with a portion of higher grade Macs was a guy by the name of Doug Salupa. Doug Salupa runs Basement Comics out. No, not Basement Comics. Comic World. Sorry, I'm thinking of Al Stoltz. No, Doug Salupa runs Comic World out of Canada. And for the longest time, he was one of these rare dealers that knew that foreigns were kind of the next big thing. He knew there was value there. He knew there was novelty there. And he was the only dealer who was even talking about it in his Overstreet Market reports. If you go back into the Overstreet Market reports, the only guy who talked about foreigns at all was Doug Salupa. So he has to really be given the credit as a dealer that was kind of the first pro seller to say, hey, guys, we're kind of missing a whole part of the market here. No one gives a shit. Why is that? I'm curious. So one of the things he started doing was he started giving credit to foreign sellers that would send him foreign keys in his store. So there was this cross-pollination between foreign collectors that wanted American keys and Doug, who wanted to sell foreign keys, right? And but Doug isn't the only one. A bunch of people, found a lot of these books. I found this book. I think if it were to be cleaned and pressed just to make sure, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think it'd be a 9.2 at least, which normally with Macs you just don't fucking see. So for a while there, we used to think that the Novedades red cover, the second edition, the second edition, the Novedades edition, we used to think that was a tougher book. We used to think that was a harder book to find in grade. And in a way, it still sort of is, but a lot more of those mid-grade Novedades have popped out. We've seen a lot more of those, and it makes sense. Remember, this was printed in, and even says it on the cover, 1974, okay? The Novedades was printed later in the 80s. And so it would make sense, and the Novedades had higher print runs. Now, the Novedades, the red, did have a much thinner cover stock than normal as well. But anyway, what was weird about that was that it seemed like finding decent Macs, including higher grade Macs, wasn't difficult, right? And then just like that, they dried up. They went away. And then just like that, we couldn't fucking even find low grade copies. So what the hell happened? For a while there was, it seemed like a glut. I mean, Kazi, one of the guys from our groups, go have him show you a picture of literally like, he's got where it's fanned out. It's like 25 or 20 Mac 129s. It just seemed like there was a bunch out there. Maybe they were low-hanging fruit. Now, a story about the 9.6 I'm going to say is one where Doug Salupa had one that was graded. In fact, it might be yours. I'm not exactly sure. But he had a 9.6 and it was for sale for like I think he was selling it for like $320 or something. And a friend of mine asked me what I thought it was worth. And at that time, higher grade stuff, like I said, mine is like a 9.2, 9.4. Higher grade stuff wasn't necessarily that hard to find. I thought it was actually overvalued. I thought it was actually about $100, maybe between $70 and $100 overvalued. I thought that was more like a $200, $225 book, $250 maybe max. And I told my buddy, my friend at the time. I told him, yeah, I think it's just maybe $100 too much. Maybe he passed on it. To this day, I know he regrets it, and he will probably put a comment in the thing if he talks about it. But yeah, he passed on it. Not maybe 2 years later, 3 years later, I don't remember exactly. One of these, a 9.6, maybe that's where you found that. Did you buy that on Comic Link? Are you the buyer? I don't know where you found that book, but one sold on Comic Link, if I remember correctly, a little north of $2,000, of 2 G's. And someone paid that price because, in all honesty, high grade Macs are rare. High grade Macs, you just don't see, not in the 9.6 range. You rarely see Mexican books from the 70s at all in the 9.6 range. Why there was this little glut of a lot of them for a little while, or higher grade, I don't know. None of us can explain it. But is a 9.6 worth $2,000? In my mind, it is, especially right now in this market. I think that a 9.6 Mac, because that book, I mean, all you got to do is look at it, and you can see how thin, how small, how, with a lot of older books, particularly in countries that didn't have a bag and board culture, my Mac's beautiful, right? But it does have a little problem that's going to, limit it. And that is that it's got discolored staples. I wouldn't say that they're rusty, but I would definitely say they're discolored. And at what point does discoloring stop a book from getting past that 9 range? I don't know. So, this in a 9.6, to me, if you ask me, and this is just going on the last 9.6 sale that I know of, I think it was like 2 G's. I think you're looking at 2 G's. So that answers that question. It could be worth more now. I mean, I think it could be debated that a 9.6, and this is the other really crazy thing, I think if you look on the census, they're CGC graded. I don't remember how many, but I think there was 4 9.6s. 3? What if one of those could get pressed into a 9.8? What the hell would that be worth? I can promise you that a 9.8 Mac, Mexican Mac, there's probably one to every I don't know, 100. I don't know how many 9.8s of the Marvel there is. But there's maybe one to all the other 9.8 Spider-Man 129s that are out there. It's a rare thing. It would, in the 9.6s, even though the census says there's like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe, I don't remember how many are on there. Trust me, as a Mexican book from 1974, a 9.6 in that grade is worth something to somebody that knows. But that's the problem, right, that we run into. Too many people don't know. And until those people know, we're not going to see the values necessarily compete with that. But anyway, I'm going on a fucking tangent. Let's go to your next question. For Marvel Italian books, did the entire Marvel universe begin in Italy in 1970? Were there Marvel comics in Italy before that? I do not know. I don't think so. I've always worked off the assumption that Marvel started in Italy in 1970 with Editorial Corno. The Corno Italians are things of beauty. They are the fucking BMWs of formats, of comic book formats. High gloss paper, high cardstock covers, freaking all kinds of packaged in cool ways, posters, stickers, medals. They're things of beauty. Italian Cornos are fucking awesome. But I don't think they hit until 1970. And I think they started with Fantastic Four, Thor, and Daredevil. And then they went over to Spider-Man and something else. But yeah, I do not think there is Marvel in Italy before 1970. There is in France. There's definitely DC in Italy before 70. In fact, you have some of the fascist Superman Italians, or the ones that happened during Mussolini. Or was it Mussolini? I don't remember exactly, but there were some early ones where Superman could still be considered capitalist propaganda, and the fascists didn't like that. If memory serves, Now, that's the thing about this niche of the comic book world is that you can never know it all. You're never going to know even. You're never even going to be an expert in any specific one country. It's just too big. It's too fucking big. And that's what brings me to your next question. Oh, no, I was going to say to your fourth question. I'll get to your three in a second. To your fourth question, are there good foreign websites that have good information to learn different countries? Yes, there's a ton. Australia has Aussie reprints. Mexico has Balda Comics. Mexico has Spider-Max, nothing but Spider-Man. French Canada has Editions Heritage, had a website. I don't know if they still do, but they do. Brazil has a couple. They have Guia de Ebal. They have Guia de Quadrinos. Spain has Tebosofora. I don't know if I said that right, Cecilia. Tebosofora. I always forget how to pronounce that. Italy has Fumetti Collezioni. I forget the name. Germans, the German database. There's Nordic databases. There's Dutch databases. Catawiki is your Dutch database. Shit, there's tons. Not for every country, but there are a lot. Trying to think of one I might have missed. The Greek database is in the Greek forum. So, yes, there are places you can learn about that, but you're not going to learn about it sitting on the sidelines. That's where you got to get involved, Kev. You've got to talk to people. You got to talk to some of us old schooler guys. We can direct you in the right direction. Ask people in the group, hey, I'm researching this country. What is the best database of that country can I get to? Now, of course, comics.org has gotten a lot better. They used to be nothing there, hardly anything at all, foreign-wise. And it was like that for years. But within the last, I'd say at least 5 years, they've exploded in their foreign scans. And not only have they exploded in their foreign scans, but they've done a good job of connecting them to their American edition. So it's created this web. So you can go to any book that you're interested in, go to Grad Comics database, go into that book's page, and then if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see links to other countries' books that have those stories in them. They're cross-referenced, right? Now, foreign databases will do that as well. Aussie reprints for the Australian books does that, and it's very good. Balda Comics does that, not by story, but by cover. So you can do it. You can find it, but you got to get involved. Question number 3. I'm looking for a Spanish X-Men 1 in low grade. What range would I expect to pay for it? There is no Spanish X-Men 1 that's close to the American original. There is a Mexican X-Men 1 that is close to the American original. That is the La Prensa. Spain probably has one, but it was probably printed much later. I think the closest Spain gets is in the late 60s with the Vertice. And I can't remember. They probably do have an X-Men 1. I'm pretty sure they do. But I don't think it uses cover. I think it is a totally redrawn cover, which are awesome. Those are awesome too. But if you're looking for like the definitive X-Men 1, the one closest to the American printing was the La Prensa. And I believe that's going to run you a couple G's in higher grade. Lower grade, shit. Beat up FF1 La Prensa recently went for over $1,000, I think. I cannot think of a recent X-Men 1 sale, but I think you're going to pay over $1,000 and into the 2s and 3s, maybe. A lot of it, and like I said, a lot of it's going to depend. Are you going to buy it on American eBay, or are you going to buy it from a Mexican collector? You might pay something different buying it from a Mexican collector than you will from someone on American eBay, or even from someone that owns it, maybe in Spain. The problem with a lot of the Mexican books is that they know that they are leaving money on the table, not bringing it to American eBay. So Um, the all the big hidden deals of the old days, those days are gone. Going on Mercado Libre, which is their eBay, and finding an X-Men one for a price that maybe the Mexicans would have paid a couple years ago ain't happening anymore. Um, I mean, unless you're in country and you know collectors and you have specific relationships, maybe. But your only place to buy Los Hombres X1 is probably going to be American eBay, and you're going to pay through the nose for it. Probably some of the most desirable Marvels are going to be those early La Prenzas. So be ready to pay some money, but still, in the grand scheme of things, in comparison to an American X-Men one, it's going to be, it's not going to necessarily. You should be able to pick that up reasonably. I think you could find one in comparison to the American edition, and it's doable. But I haven't seen a Los Hombres X for sale in a while. Some of the other guys might know better. Maybe they've answered. I don't know. But welcome to the group, Kev. Thanks for watching. Anyone else that wanted to hear me just spout my shit? And wow, I took 21 minutes to answer 3 questions. I have diarrhea of the mouth. Just like. But anyway, you've got a great book. That's a great fucking book. The Mac 129, I can tell you right now, is giving 129 hunters nightmares because they do not pop up. I believe there is one for sale out of Spain, but it's not like the old days where we were seeing these pop up 2 or 3 a month. Even once a month was a lot. But you could get them. You could get them back then. I don't know where the hell all of them are. We've sometimes thought maybe Mexican collectors are realizing that this is a popular book and are holding on to it. And we've also sometimes thought that a lot of collectors in Mexico that didn't realize that this book, because they grew up in the 80s, once they found out, they went out, they hunted it, and they found them. And a lot of that low-hanging fruit is gone. But congratulations on your 9.6. Awesome. And welcome to the group. Define 999 out, baby.